So we've got 3 different types of new changes to the commanders, some prototype weapon systems unveiled, and some fearsome changes for the Kroot. Let's talk about some more Codex Tau Empire leaks. Hello and welcome back to Warspec Tactics, where today we're taking a look at the Tau Empire Codex once more, and returning to do a second pass on that massive leak of Tau rumours that came out last week. I did make a video at the time and we talked about some of the more interesting things, but I thought just given the sheer volume of the things and some of the other interesting details I didn't get around to talking about, it would be worth doing a second pass. As before, these leaks do seem quite credible to me. They come from someone on Reddit called Codex Cat, who posted a picture of their pet cat with the codex, and spent really quite a while answering all the people's questions about the new book. In any case, despite covering quite a bit last time, there's still quite a lot to go over. So today we're going to be talking about keywords, Kroot, crisis commanders and more. I will go through 7 of the more interesting points in the codex one by one. First up, it does appear that he provided us with an actual list of core units, kind of largely what I would expect from the codex, apparently fire warriors and pathfinders, crisis suits and their bodyguard alternative, stealth suits, and perhaps most interestingly, broadsides. It probably means that the crisis suits and the broadsides will be getting the most bang for their buck out of any buffs that target core units, though I'm sure a fair few things might be limited to things like core infantry as well, things like that fireblade buff for example. In any case, broadsides being core is particularly interesting. Massive firepower accompanied by decent buffs is often a recipe for some very strong things indeed. They might be a unit to watch. In another positive change for them, it seems that battlesuits are now largely infantry now. They previously didn't have the infantry keyword, so couldn't benefit from cover. Being able to get things like light cover very easily is a really nice advantage for them, as is moving through ruined walls and things. Again, that seems to be crisis suits, stealth suits, and again broadsides. They should all be getting the benefit of light cover quite easily, and I think that largely gaining the infantry keyword is very good news for them. They were in a bit of a weird situation before, being neither infantry nor vehicles, so I think overall that makes the codex feel a bit neater. The Riptide and the Ghostkeel now apparently count as vehicles, as does the Storm Surge, though I don't know whether or not the Storm Surge has the battlesuit keyword, it didn't before. Finally, for objectives secured, in general it's just going to be on the troops in the codex, troop carnivores and the 2 types of fire warriors, plus it's more of the buffs for the Crisis Enforcer battlesuit who can hand it out to crisis suits nearby if he happens to be near them in the command phase. Speaking of which, the 3 different flavours of commanders have got slightly more differentiated. They all give you a reroll 1s to hit aura like a Space Marine captain, and you can only take 1 per detachment unless you farsight enclaves in which you can take 2. The standard XV8 commander and crisis suits in general seem to be moving 10 inches now, so a slight movement buff to them there, and they have a command phase benefit which means that you can tell 1 crisis suit unit to fall back and shoot and charge. Farsight also gets that, and I think that that's a really nice buff to have on your units going forward. We do know that battlesuits can shoot in combat now, but in general I think that being able to fall back and just fire at the enemy anyway is likely going to be preferable. The Enforcer commander was previously very similar indeed. He seems to be significantly up armoured now. He only moves 8 inches. Apparently he gets a native iridium armour or 2+ armour save, and he gets -1 damage built in as well. It seems that if you want an abnormally tanky commander, then he's your go-to. As mentioned, he can give out objectives secured to 1 unit of crisis suits each turn, given in the command phase. Finally, we have the Cold Star commander, which does appear to have seen the most changes. His movement has actually been reined in a fair bit. He now only moves 14 inches, so it's not just zipping 20 inches across the battlefield each turn. And unfortunately, his advanced move, which could previously let him move another massive 20 inches, that's been cut down to 8. He is still pretty rapid though, getting around at 22 inches per turn and still being able to shoot with assault weapons. And apparently once per game he can do a big jump teleport type move, representing him jumping into the sky and coming down somewhere else. He does have to set up greater than 9 inches away, but that basically could give him a turn of essentially unlimited movement, a free redeploy. The high output burst cannon has also been souped up as well. It's a 15-point upgrade for 10 shots at strength 5 AP -1, so that does seem like a pretty efficient infantry clearing option to me. You can only take 1 of those. Overall, it looks like they're all interesting and they do have things to sell them. It's going to depend on how many points they are to see which one gets favoured, I think. Next up we have prototype systems. Here are just a few of them, and apparently there are a fair few more. These appear to be the Tau Empire paid for in points upgrade, and they can either go on commanders, crisis Shazvirs, or Ghostkeels. There's a prototype plasma rifle that's strength 8, AP -5, damage 3 and ignores invuls. If so, that will give Tau another ability that can cut straight through invul saves, and there might be a good army against countering high invul save armies. You're going to be paying 20 points above the standard plasma rifle price, so you really are paying a bit of a premium for the reliability. Still seems like a useful tool to have in the army, but I still think against a lot of opponents you might just be equally good having just 2 plasma rifles on 2 different suits and putting the points towards that. Wide spectrum scanners are a plus 20 points upgrade for a model with an early warning override. Early warning override now gives you the Overwatch on 5+ ability. It seems that this gives you the benefit of the old early warning override rules, basically intercepting reserves coming in within 12 inches. Not too bad, but I'm not sure whether it's worth 20 points or not. It just seems like it's relatively easily countered just by your opponent choosing not to put reserves within 12 inches of that specific model. Next there's internal grenade racks for 15 points. If you move over an enemy unit on a 2+, you can deal D3 mortal wounds to them. Perhaps that could be an interesting one on a cold star with its decent movement. If you can manage to use that more than once per battle, that's usually going to be a good investment, I think. And finally there's the 30-point upgrade called Resonator Warheads. This one makes a missile pod 3 shots rather than 2. It remains at AP-2 and 2 damage, but if you hit any infantry, beast or cavalry with it, then they halve their movement characteristic. That seems like a pretty annoying ability to be handing out to one unit each turn. Again, that certainly seems tempting enough, not for the raw damage output, but for the control of where your opponent can move and where they can't. Next we've got some details on crisis suit weapons, where the biggest change is they cost quite a lot more points if you double up on the guns. The first gun that you take is relatively inexpensive, then if you take a duplicate of the same weapon it costs 5 points more, and if you take 3 it's 5 points more again. Crisis suits can apparently have 3 weapons and a support system, which they largely get for free, and I think that this is really going to incentivize crisis suits going around with 3 different guns rather than 3 of the same. I'm not personally sure whether or not this is the best balancing mechanic. I think just in general you're largely going to get people fielding just 3 different guns all the time now, as that's going to be the most efficient damage output for the point, and with split fire in 9th edition it's really not the biggest deal. In any case, cyclic ion blasters start on 10 points, they seem to go up to 20 and 25 if you take more, and they're strength 8, AP-2, damage 2 on the overcharge now, so a little bit more AP. Airbursting fragmentation projectors start at 5 points, their assault D6 24-inch range, strength 4 and AP-1, ignores line of sight. Not bad to have a little bit of ignores line of sight in the army, could be good for stacking some wounds on hidden units. Burst cannons, as previewed by Warhammer Community, have gone up to 6 shots, still no AP, and they start on 5 points. Fusion blasters are essentially an 18-inch melter gun, they get the D6 plus 2 damage at half range, they start on 10 points. Plasma rifles have really quite changed in scope, they're now 30-inch single-shot assault 1 weapons with strength 8, AP-4 and a flat damage of 3. They seem good for stacking hurt on light vehicles now and putting wounds on things like 3 wound marines. Flamers get D6 plus 2 shots now, 12-inch range and no AP, they start at 5 points too. And missile pods appear to have gained an extra pip of AP, they lost 6-inch range, they start at 10 points now, so one of the more expensive options. I think the crisis suit loadouts might well be a puzzle that a lot of people solve in different ways. It kind of depends on what sort of targets you want them to hunt and how close range you want them to be. For some fairly general purpose threats, maybe something like a plasma rifle, missile pod and cyclic ion blaster might be fun. That'll net you a fair few shots at fairly decent range and damage. Maybe for anti-tank purposes you could perhaps double up on the fusion blasters and take a plasma rifle perhaps, or maybe something like fusion, plasma and cyclic ion blaster. Next up we have the Kroot, which are apparently remaining at 6 points per model, but seem really quite good for the points now. They retain their pre-game 7-inch move, get an extra +1 to their armor save when they're in light cover, a little bit more durability there, and now actually seem to be quite solid in melee for their points cost, having 2 attacks at weapon skill 3+, strength 4 and AP-1, which isn't exactly the most overwhelming in the world, but it's really not bad at all for 6-point models. At the very least that's pretty efficient against light infantry, who genuinely have to fear these guys charging in now. It seems really decent, particularly on top of their Kroot rifle rapid firing and shooting. That's quite a lot of anti-infantry damage. Apparently if you take a Kroot Carnivore squad, it allows you to take a Shaper, Kroot Hound and Krootot squad, all without taking up a Force Organisation slot. The Shaper has apparently moved to the HQ slot and has a few Warlord traits available, so it does sound like you could take entire detachments of Kroot now if you wanted to. I feel like a couple of units of these could be really quite a cheap useful unit to have about. Still very fragile to enemy shooting, but actually quite dangerous if the enemy underestimates them. Next up, the Ghostkeel is now apparently 160 points, has been boosted to 12-inch movement and a big 12 wounds, and it appears that its stealth technology has got better, as apparently those stealth drones mean that you can't be shot from greater than 18 inches away now. Even if you can target it directly, then it'll still be -1 to hit, and it means it could be a seriously annoying choice for defending far-flung objectives. If that's really right, then it means that your opponent just cannot shoot this off from a long range, hopefully while you pour out a little bit of cyclic ion raker or plasma rifle fire. Both of those have apparently been buffed. The Fusion Collider now gets 3 shots every time at its Strength 8, AP-4, and the new Melter rule, and the cyclic ion raker has gone up to AP-2, similar to basically all of the ion weapons. Apparently it now also has an option to take some flare launchers, which have an ability to also give you a 5+ feel no pain type save against anything that's Strength 7 or higher. If that's literally just a support system upgrade, then that seems like great value. That's going to be one of the easiest ways to kill the Ghostkeel. I think I would actually like to see the full wording on that though before I automatically say that it's great. It might be something like a stratagem. In any case, particularly with that new stealth rule, the Ghostkeel does look like a really annoying unit to deal with. You're going to have to be quite aggressive with your shooting to get them in range, or try and jump up and catch it in melee. Really quite nice if you put it on the flanks to mean that it's unlikely to get focused down. Finally, for our look at the leaks today, we have some drones. As mentioned before from some of the previous hints, they are now largely part of units, and Saviour Protocols is a 3-inch range stratagem. They haven't disclosed the full wording on it, but they have said that the drone will automatically die as part of the stratagem. In any case, it does mean that you can't just have all of your most important units protected by drones all the time. You're going to have to pick and choose which ones are defended. In general, drones are just largely ignored for many rules: lookout sir, determining toughness, and whether or not the squad is half strength. That seems reasonable to me. In general, I'm sure they're viewed more as war gear than parts of the squad. Shield drones just appear to be more ablasive wounds now. 2 wounds and a 4+ invul, but no more 5+ feel no pain. Apparently they're 12 points for the model. The Pathfinder drones all give the whole squad a benefit. The Recon drone allows ignores light cover. The Grav Inhibitor one a -2 to charge, and the Pulse Accelerator one will give the Pathfinders AP-1 pulse carbines. I guess we'll have to see whether shooty Pathfinders are worth it or not. They can take a bunch of fun stuff, but I wonder whether or not it's just going to be a case of using them for cheap marker lights. Otherwise, the Fire Warrior's Guardian drone is a 4+ invul save, and the unit can't be wounded on a 1 or a 2. Vehicle drones have maybe had a slightly sad change. They need to be deployed now for a 1 command point stratagem. You can't just disembark the drones en masse for a really annoying set of screening units, but you can still do it when it matters the most. And gun drones get their range boost to the pulse carbines that we've already seen, but apparently they don't get any other mileage out of the Fireblade pulse buff. They just get their own damage output, plus any +1 to hits for drone controllers, which are still a thing. Overall, for drones, it just looks like there's going to be a lot fewer random units dotted around, a lot more drones within squads, and perhaps a lot less reliance on them as the army as a whole to try and make their best things work. Things like Riptides and Ghostkeels aren't going to be able to use them for Saviour Protocols apparently, so that strategy from 8th edition just seems completely dead in the water. Overall though, there just seems like there's quite a lot of reasons to be positive about the new Tau decks. It's certainly looking like a massive power boost compared with where their army is at the moment. I'm looking forward to reviewing the codex in full and any other leaks or rumours that we get out before then. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll certainly keep the regular videos coming. I tend to post new 40k things just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and you can find that down in the video description below. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, including seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry to the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.